the executive order from President Donald Trump. So yesterday, on Wednesday, June 16th, Donald Trump released a new executive order. It's called a presidential action, and it is regarding safe policing for safe communities, issued on June 16th. Now, I read this late last night, and what I did is I highlighted I read the entire executive order. It's not long. It's about 5 pages. And I want to run through it with you. I want to highlight what I like, highlight what I dislike. So the good stuff is in green. The bad stuff is in red. And the meh stuff, the kind of middle of the road stuff, that's going to all be in yellow. And so here's what we've got. Let's take a look at this order. And I'll just, the Cliff Notes version of this, I think this is a great step in the right direction. I am very actually pleased with what I saw. And we're going to run through it. So as we know, the main part of any executive order is going to start with the purpose. And here, that's what we're talking about right here. The purpose is, as Americans, we have to establish a reason why we are doing this. Why are we even doing the executive order part? And so what this executive order does is it really spends a little bit of time fluffing up the police. And it's doing that for a purpose, because it's about to blast the police. It's going to build them up, say, we love you, you're great, we're issuing this to serve a purpose. By the way, we think you're great, but we're gonna have some serious reforms. So here's what that looks like. So federal, all right, so my clicky thing is not working. So the federal, state, and territorial law enforcement officers place their lives at risk every day to ensure these rights are preserved. So they're talking about fundamental, inalienable rights to life, liberty, and they're saying that the cops are the ones who are responsible for ensuring that this takes place every day. The rest of this, same stuff. Right? I have a strong disagreement about this part here. You know, are they really putting their lives at risk every day? Not really. I mean, you know, some of them are, but a lot of them are not. A lot of them are writing traffic tickets and things. And yes, I understand that a traffic situation can go bad, but we've already talked about this a lot. Being a police officer is like the 16th or the 25th or whatever, dangerous job in America. There are many, many other dangerous jobs. And so this repetition that law enforcement officials are putting their lives on the line every day when they're writing people speeding tickets for going 11 over the speed limit is a joke. It's just a joke. Like, that's not putting your life on the line. Okay, if somebody pulls a gun out, one rare situation that is, but that could happen to anybody. All right, so law enforcement officers provide the essential, all this stuff. It's really fluffing them up. This is really where it changes. And he says they can help foster a safe environment where we all can prosper. Unfortunately, there have been instances in which some officers have misused their authority, challenging the trust of the American people with tragic consequences. So when I first read this, I thought, wow. And you can see my notes there. I actually say, wow. I wrote that specifically because he could have used when I say he, I'm talking about the administration, could have used much softer language. Easily could have been something like, we understand that these difficult situations arise and we need to continue to earn the trust of the American people. But he didn't do that. He could have said, we know these are difficult times, and therefore, in an effort to always improve our justice system, we're recommending these reforms. He's not saying that at all. It's not delicate language. And when you read these types of governmental orders, sometimes a small word that has a little bit of a connotation, like the word misused, in everyday parlance, that may not mean much to you or I, right? We say, well, I misused that, or I misplaced that, or something. It's kind of a small deal. But when you use it in these government documents, it's a pretty big deal. They're not going to come out there and say some officers have been psychotic maniacs with their authority, which, if you ask me that, I'd say, yeah, that's pretty accurate. There are some of these guys who are psychotic maniacs. That would be very colorful, very sort of inflammatory language. So you're not going to see that type of language in government documents. It's going to be mostly couched, mostly quiet, kind of benevolent language. But here, they're saying specifically, no. They misused their authority. They challenged the trust of the American people, and they did so with tragic consequences for individual victims, their community, and our nation, which is a big deal. He could have easily not said anything about fault, but he's assigning fault right there. The administration is saying, yeah, the cops are wrong. They misused their authority. They did it, and they challenged the trust, and it resulted in tragic consequences. So he's blaming law enforcement directly on that, and I've never seen anything like that in my time in practice coming from that level, which is a big deal. And I think a lot of people are glossing over that. He goes on forward to say, we're all entitled to live according to with confidence in our law enforcement officers, and he specifically calls out the African-American community. He says, particularly in the African-American communities, we must redouble our efforts as a nation to swiftly address the instances of misconduct. So I highlighted that. What does that mean? We don't know exactly, but we're going to get to it soon. But the fact that he specifically said, yeah, law enforcement's a problem. And guys, law enforcement is a problem with the African-American community in particular, and we're going to fix that. It's a really focused argument. It's a really focused purpose. The document is opening up saying we are going to address these issues. We know the cops are wrong. We know the cops are wrong specifically with the African-American community. So it's on point. I mean, I don't know how you get much more on point than answering those two things. It's the purpose, I think, is pretty clear. Just because I like the purpose doesn't mean I like all of this, but it's starting out pretty good. And the order goes on to say even further that the Constitution declares and so on to establish justice. Then we end the purpose part of the argument.